Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to the Sindh College Lectures. Today we will learn a very beautiful and an inspirational poem called Say Not the Struggle Naught Availeth, written by Arthur Hugh Clough and taken from the verse book of Interclass. I am Saima Ameer Jamali, HOD English Department, Government Girls Degree College, Nawabshah. The core points to be learned from this lecture are: firstly, introduction to the poet, who he was and what do we know about him. Secondly, we will learn the poem and get its explanation and evaluate its message. Thirdly, while concluding the poem, we will learn some of the possible themes. Let us now formally begin with the introduction to the poet. He was born on 1st January 1819 at Liverpool and died on 13th November 1861 at Florence. He was an English poet of Victorian era. Victorian era. We must know what is Victorian era. Actually, it is the name given to a period of history during 19th century when Queen Victoria ruled over England. Arthur was educated at Rugby School, then to the Balliol College and to Oxford. During his visit to Italy, he contracted malaria and died at the age of 42. Now learn why he is famous and what do we know about him. First and foremost, he is famous for the very poem we are going to deal today. He is also famous for his friendship with Matthew Arnold, who was a poet and a cultural critic of 19th century. Arthur was a subject of Arnold's commemorative elegy called Thyrsis, means Arnold wrote an elegy called Thyrsis to mourn the death of his friend Arthur Hugh Clough. Clough is also well known for his assistance to a wonderful lady, Florence Nightingale, who was the first cousin of his wife and who launched a successful campaign for the reform of hospitals and nursing profession. Arthur Hugh Clough was admired by his contemporaries as he was an educationalist and worked a lot for social welfare. Now, talking about his literature, his works reflect the perplexity and the religious doubt of the mid-19th century, as we know that the 19th century Victorian era is also named as the Age of Doubt, when religious orthodox was challenged by the scientific theory of Darwin regarding origin of living creatures. At Oxford, he intended to become a clergyman, but his increasing religious skepticism caused him to leave the university. After the introduction to the poet, let's now move to the poem. The poem Say Not the Struggle Naught Availeth has been actually titled after an old proverb which is really optimistic in its approach and its meaning. This poem became really much famous in America and Britain during Second World War, when Winston Churchill quoted it in one of the most notable wartime speeches to express his conviction that, hard and disheartening as the long struggle then was, victory would come in the end. Now, talking about the literary qualities and characteristics of the poem is really much beautiful and an inspirational, and writer has used imagery to convey a really very much effective idea through images. Now we must know what is imagery. Imagery is actually use of descriptive or figurative language in literature to describe certain ideas. The imagery he used in the poem is that of the battlefield, that of the waves of the sea striking against the coast, and that of the rising sun. Here and now I am explaining the stanza number 1 after reading the actual verses from the poem. Say not the struggle not availeth, the labour and the wants are vain. The enemy friends not faileth, and as the things have been, they remain. Here author has created an image of a battleground or a battlefield where two armies are fighting with each other. And through this battle scene, author says that armies or the soldier must not think their struggle is useless and the labors and the pains and the diligent efforts they took are useless or absurd. They could not weaken their enemy and they could not defeat them, and their efforts or their struggles could not bring any positive change in the state of affairs. After learning the stanza and its explanation, we must evaluate its message. The message we got across the whole stanza is that struggle always bears positive results. Wounds and the pains in the way of a struggle are not useless. One should never stay desperate about the struggle and always should be hopeful. Let's now proceed to stanza number 2. If hopes were dupes, fears may be liars. It may be in yon smoke concealed. Your comrades chase even now the flyers, and but for you buzzes the field. Here in this stanza, the imagery of the battlefield prolongs to continue the same idea regarding usefulness of a struggle. Here Arthur is encouraging the fighting soldiers always to stay hopeful with their efforts and their struggles and their actions, and never to become hopeless. Because hope can never deceive them, it can never betray them, and it will further prove the fear of defeat was just a lie and nothing else. As a fighting soldier can only see whatever appears in front of him, and he is completely unable to see whatever is happening beyond the smoke of the guns and the dust of the battleground. Maybe their army, their friends may have won them the battle, and now they are trying to chase those who are trying to fly or run away after being defeated. Now the evaluation. Hope can never turn to deceit. One should always stay hopeful. Fears should be avoided because they may create hurdles in the way of progress. Believe the teamwork. You should always be helpful about the unity of your companion and should never be dubious about his efforts. Stanza number 3. For the while the tired waves, vainly breaking, seems here no painful inch to gain. Far back through creeks and inlets making, comes silent, flooding in the main. Here the poet shifts to use another image to prove his idea, which is never to underestimate the efforts and the struggle. In this imagery, the poet is describing the oceanic waves that violently come from the deep of the sea towards the shores and hit them again constantly in order to make a further advance into the land. When they strike them again and again, it gives an impression that they are tired and they will give it up and they will not succeed in making its way into the land. But finally, when we see them after some time, they have successfully made the inlets and the creeks in the land where ocean water can gush in successfully to flood it. Now, the messages that we got particularly from this stanza are given here. Never to underestimate the struggle, be it less intense or more. Secondly, we got the idea that consistency is required to get the success. Let us now learn fourth and last stanza of the poem. And not by eastern window only, when daylight comes in light. In front the sun climbs slow, how slowly, but westward look, the land is bright. In this stanza, the poet has wisely given us another example, a profound one, to affirm his throughout idea. He gives us an image of rising sun. We all know that sun rises in the east and it climbs very slowly. But the aim of the sun is to spread light everywhere and remove the darkness. As we know, it rises in the east. It never keeps the light only to the east side, but it brightens up every side and every corner of the earth, which means that constant efforts may bring success from any unexpected direction, any side, no matter if the pace of the ascent or the struggle is slow, but it is sure to bring success. It teaches us not to be hasty or to do a time-bound struggle, but to be slow and definite and consistent. Only that struggle is destined to succeed, and only that efforts produce dynamic results. Now the evaluation of the stanza. The pace of the struggle never matters, be it slow or faster. It will bring success anyhow. The success may be multidirectional. It cannot be expected only to get the efforts or the success from that direction in which you are exerting your energies and your struggles. You may get your rewards, your success from any direction. So stay hopeful. While concluding today's lecture, I'll be telling you some of the possible themes that we come across while studying the poem. These are given here. Theme of optimism, theme of consistency, efforts are always rewarded, selfless efforts, theme of patience, and let others get benefit of your struggles too. I will come up with my next lecture very soon. Till then, stay blessed. Allah Hafiz.